And naturally, I'm a Tottenham man, obviously. I can reflect back to being a player with and manager of some of the finest players that have ever been in the game.
The place is fantastic, the tradition of this club.
To be the manager of 3 cup-winning teams here, I'm so lucky, it's untrue.
Hotspur America podcast, airing every week during the English Premier League season.
What a glory, glory night at White Hart Lane. This great and historic football club.
Joyful night down the Tottenham High Road.
Hotspur America, the original US-based podcast dedicated solely to Tottenham Hotspur Football Club.
Is Gascoigne going to have a crack? He is, you know. Oh, I say! Schoolboy's own stuff.
I hate Arsenal, just hate them.
Oh, what a goal! Unbelievable! Wow, this is incredible.
We're the Yids in America.
This is there to tap in.
What a fantastic run! He scored! Alex Turner, Eric Dyer.
This is your Hotspur America.
Season 5, Summer Special, Episode 3 of the Hotspur America podcast. Simon is here, and he's going to be running things for us. But before we get into all that, as always, the Hotspur America podcast can be found on multiple social media platforms. Instagram at Hotspur America Pod. Also find us on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Spreaker, iTunes, and the app on your Apple devices. It is free. Search Hotspur America, download it. All you got to do is listen to like a 30-second commercial selling Tide Pods for kids, and then you get to listen to us.
Tide Pods for kids.
Big
Here,
summer.
kids, eat this.
Yeah, or not. Don't do that, please, ever. Joining us today with us, we got the summer tour coming up. Real excited about that. World Cup week starts in 4 days? Thursday, I believe it is. But we're going to get into the a little bit of the summer transfers, a little bit of trivia later on. But we also want to talk about the summer tour that's upcoming. Chuck from Austin Spurs is here joining us. Chuck, how you doing, buddy?
Good, Ken. Yourself?
Doing well. It's really glad to have you. Can't wait to listen to get some different perspectives from some of the other heads of the households, if you will, of the supporters groups around the states. Also joining us from San Diego Spurs, who will be hosting one of those 3 matches, is Ben Foreman from San Diego Spurs. Ben, how are you?
Hey, dude, what's going on? How's everybody doing?
Doing well. Doing really good. Listen, this week we're going to do something a little bit different. Not so indifferent, but Simon's going to kind of run the show for us a little bit. He has done a lot of diligent work getting ready for this podcast, and the World Cup is something that's kind of close to his heart, as well as these summer tours. So without any further ado, Simon, it's all yours, pal.
Thank you, Ken, and it's a pleasure to be doing one of these midsummer podcasts. I think this is the 3rd one we've done this summer, just to keep everyone abreast of what's going on in the world of Spurs. So it's the chairman special. We've got myself, we've got Ben, and we've got Chuck, representing 3 of the greatest supporters clubs in the US. A pleasure to have you on board, guys. We'll be taking a deep dive into the World Cup shortly, but with this Spurs tour coming up in late July, there's a lot going on. This is Tottenham's second foray into the ICC after last summer's 3-match tour in Orlando, New Jersey, and Nashville. And this year they're returning, coming more to the Central and to the West Coast with matches in Minneapolis, San Diego, and the City of Angels. And so we invited both Ben as host for one of those matches in San Diego, and Chuck, who has been instrumental in staging some very cool stuff with tours over the last few years. I really, truly remember with fondness the pub crawl in Denver in 2015. That was fantastic.
Yeah, that was great.
So Chuck, before we hand it over to Ben, why don't you talk about some of the activities you've got planned, city by city, and then we'll kind of hand it over to Ben so he can talk about, what a host club has to do to pull off something like this.
Work my ass off.
Simon, the first thing I would say is thank you very much for having me on your podcast. You guys do a great job. I always really like hearing the post-mortem from every transfer window, and it's a lot of really good insight. In terms of the summer tour stuff, I've been to a bunch of matches in the States, and it's a lot of fun, but the worst part of the time is the actual match itself, and everything else is a really fun time, and you get to meet people throughout the United States and just have a really good time. A few years ago for the Denver one, and that's one of the actual summer tour matches I remember because Dele Alli played really well in that match. was we did a pub crawl. And so my friend Tyler, he's in Austin Spurs. He's a bit of a beer nerd, and he just looked up a bunch of different breweries, and we took out Google Maps and we planned something out. We put it on our Twitter page, and 75 to 100 people showed up, and it was a lot of fun. And I know I met you there. I met so many random people, and it was a lot of fun, and I had a blast. And last summer for Nashville, we decided to do it again, and we did like a honky tonk crawl, and I think there were like hundreds of people on the crawl, and we did a march across the bridge, and I put that together, and I was just so amazed at like the pictures and the videos after it, and just the energy, and it was a really cool thing to be a part of. So we're trying to plan the same thing again this year for this tour, and one of the places that we're going to be at is in San Diego, and I've been working with Ben to find some really cool craft breweries in downtown San Diego that we're going to hit up before the match on that Wednesday.
So that's the first of the matches. So
yeah.
Have you got anything kind of worked out yet that you can share with the listeners and those
Absolutely.
who may be joining the tour?
Yeah. So the first thing is that working with Ben was a pleasure, and one thing that Ben asked me to do was he did a lot of the legwork, but I did like follow-up stuff, was find a group hotel. And so we found a hotel in the Gaslamp district of downtown San Diego. That's $159 a night, and the promotional code is COYS. So the name of the hotel is the Belmont Hotel, and I know you guys have put it up on your Twitter page, and I've put it up on mine, and I'm sure Ben's put it up on San Diego Spurs as well. You just click on that link, and I think you have until June 23rd to take advantage of the rate. And we've then set up a pub crawl that starts like 2 blocks from the hotel. So the idea would be you would wake up day of the match, maybe get some tacos or burritos, and then start the pub crawl. The first place we have is at 11 a.m., and it's a place, I think it's called Resident, and it's a place that Ben recommended, and a few of my friends that have lived in San Diego have recommended as well. We're then going to go to a bar. Oh, sorry, Ben.
Every place, no worries, sorry. Every single place that is going to be on this pub crawl has awesome beer.
Yeah. So the other thing, too, that Ben was really adamant about is there are some quote-unquote craft breweries that try to pretend they are, and they're not independently owned by someone that lives in San Diego. So we're not going to go to those places, and we're going to go to places that have really good beer, really good like local flavor. And the second one that he recommended was a place called Half Door, and supposedly they have very good hamburgers as well. And then the final place is a place called Mission, and I've been to Mission, and it is huge. So we could definitely accommodate a lot of people there. And then for Mission, it's like a 5-minute walk to the trolley, and there's a trolley that goes from downtown San Diego to Jack Murphy Stadium for the match. So we're going to have people get on the trolleys around 3, and I think there's one that leaves at 3:15 and one that leaves at 3:30. So that's kind of the goal for the day.
Cool. And Ben, what time is kickoff for this match?
I think it's at 7 p.m.
Perfect. So we'll get back to more activities in San Diego. So after San Diego, Chuck, it's up the coast to L.A. and to Pasadena. What's going to go on in L.A.? Big city.
The first thing is we're going to take the Amtrak. So once again, I know you guys put it out on your Twitter page, and I think it's on ours as well. There's like a link, and you can go and get an Amtrak. We're going to try and take leaves at 10:41 that Thursday. Take an Amtrak up to Los Angeles, and hopefully we can meet a bunch of people on the train and have a good time. And that should be a blast as well. In terms of in Los Angeles, from what I understand, LA Spurs are planning a pub crawl in Pasadena. For people, I think most people in America, especially in Western United States, would know what Route 66 is. But Route 66 is a famous road in American culture that took you from Chicago to Los Angeles, and one of the places it goes through is Pasadena, near the end of Route 66, and we're going to have a bunch of bars around Route 66. I think LA Spurs are still trying to figure out the order of things, but there are a few bars that they've picked out, and they all sound pretty good. In terms of things, I think we'll put it out on our Twitter page and stuff like that when times get locked down, or if it's a thing where a lot of these bars are really close to one another. So it just might be a thing where 5 or 6 bars are going to have Spurs fans in them at all times. So that should be a lot of fun as well. I'm also really excited to watch a match in the Rose Bowl. It's a really iconic, famous stadium in the United States, so that should be a blast as well.
Awesome. And Chuck, you're going to all 3 games, correct?
Yeah, so I'm taking a 7:30 a.m. flight from LAX to Minneapolis the day after the match in LA. It should be a lot of fun. And
you're not flying out of LAX, are you?
I'm flying out of LAX, yeah.
And are you staying in the Pasadena area?
No,
Okay.
A bunch of Austin Spurs. We got multiple beach houses in Venice. And one of our friends, this is kind of rare at Austin Spurs, but we actually have someone that doesn't drink, and he's going to drive us in a van. So that's how we're going to get to Pasadena.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
So, yeah, I don't know the exact address of our place in Venice, but we're definitely going to, that Thursday before the match, we'll definitely grill out at our place and drink some beers. And we'll, if people want to come, just please hit us up. We'd be more than happy to welcome fellow Tottenham fans, especially if you're staying in Santa Monica or Venice.
Yeah.
When you're in LA.
Lift some weights, wear some sexy tank tops.
Yeah.
All right. So after LA, it's off to the Midwest and Minneapolis. What's going to go on in Minneapolis?
So the first thing I would say is the Minneapolis Spurs website is tremendous. It's very detailed, and they have a very good plan on there, and it's something that I would recommend watching, checking out and looking at. There are a few guys that I'm going to coordinate a pub crawl with for Minneapolis as well. So we're still working it out. Unfortunately, some of the bars that I looked at were bars that support other English soccer teams. So I'm not sure, if we really want to go to those places and be those people. So we might find other places that'd be more welcoming and accommodating. And that's pretty much about it.
Awesome. So let's come back to Ben. I know you're not at liberty to divulge what's going to go on for Legends Nights at this stage, but kind of tell us about. Let's go back a little bit and talk about the announcement or pre-announcement, because I know there were a lot of rumors. There was talk of New Orleans. Something else on the East Coast, but obviously it all ended up with ULA and Minneapolis. But walk us through, the excitement of hearing about it, and then what the club did to contact you, and then what you've done with the planning. Floor is yours.
Yeah, so, just like everybody else, I'm sitting on my computer, my cell phone. I'm looking at the rumors coming along, and, I all of a sudden see this one really small article out of Italy that a friend of mine actually posted because she's stationed in Naples right now, and she said, "Hey, I saw this thing. Isn't this the team that you watch?" And it said that Spurs and Roma were going to be playing in San Diego. So I said to myself, this is kind of weird. This is the first thing I've seen of it. So I actually shot Stacy an email, and I'm expecting, just like always, to not really get a reply until maybe a week later. And I wake up the following morning and I immediately have a reply from Stacy, which in and of itself is, as any chairman knows, contact with this football club tends to take a little bit of time, which is understandable. They're super busy. I can't fault them for that. But we all know that, getting a reply right away is certainly a bit of a rarity. So in the email, it was pretty funny. It said, I'm not at liberty to divulge any information. We're not putting out any information about the tour. And then she said, that being said, I'm looking forward to giving your kid a hug this summer. And I was like, oh, well, they're definitely coming to San Diego. So I actually called Allison, my wife, and I kind of read her the email. And, I didn't include the part about the hugging the wife or hugging the kid thing. And when I told her that, she was like, yeah, that's a guarantee. You know, they're definitely coming. So we were super excited. That was I would say that was roughly a week out. And then, you know, we